Hi everyone and welcome. Welcome to Curiously Catholic, an Evangelion production. In this podcast we're going to be picking the brains of Catholic enthusiasts to try and get to the bottom of how to live truly as a Catholic in contemporary times. My name is Dominic Malgeri, and in this episode today we have Archbishop Paul Martin. Welcome, Archbishop.
G'day, Dominic.
How's things?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, really. First day back at work after the Easter break, so really nice to have had that break and to celebrate, and now to get back into work again. So all's good.
Yeah, I imagine I've seen a few memes online about the aftermath of Holy Week for our clergy. It's Holy Week's like a war, and then at the end of it, you're just absolutely wiped.
Yeah. Although, that's true. Although one of the nice things about being the bishop is that a lot of people do all the organising, and then you just turn up and do the liturgy. So I wouldn't want to over exaggerate all the behind the scenes stuff that I don't have to get involved in. Often other priests.
I see.
Do. So it's a little bit. It is one of the bonuses of being a bishop.
Yeah. So you are currently an archbishop. Is that correct?
I am. So I'm a coadjutor Archbishop of Wellington.
Okay, because it feels like a couple of weeks ago you were just the bishop, or
of Christchurch.
Yeah.
Fine. Oh, yep. So I've been the Bishop of Christchurch since I was ordained in March of 2018, and that's what I thought I was going to be doing with my life. And then on the 1st of January, Holy Father, it was announced that I've been appointed the coadjutor Archbishop of Wellington. So once Cardinal John retires, I'll take over from him as the Archbishop of Wellington. Yeah.
I mean, that sounds mind blowing for me. I can't imagine what your experience is like. In 2 years, you've gone from priest to bishop to archbishop.
Yeah, it's I suppose it was probably a bigger, in lots of ways, it was a bigger jump going from being the priest to being a Bishop of Christchurch, especially because I belong to a religious order, the Society of Mary, so I was a religious priest. And in this country, Marists, as we're called, haven't been bishops here for 100 years, so it's sort of not in our psyche to be sort of appointed bishop. So that was a very big surprise when I was, they ring up and say, the Holy Father's appointed you the Bishop of Christchurch. It was never in my thinking or way of thinking about myself as a priest or those things. So that was a big shock. But to be fair, it was a very big shock when the nuncio rang up and said, you're being appointed the coadjutor of Wellington. I wasn't expecting that at all. And I suppose you become Wellington is an archdiocese, and that's why you become an archbishop. So, but in my own mind, I think that Wellington is another diocese like Christchurch is. I know it. I've worked there in the past. So I'm not. In that sense, it's changing, leading from one diocese to another. And obviously, there are some particular things that come with being an archbishop around being the metropolitan, but on the whole, it's about leading the faith community of Wellington, of the Diocese of Wellington, and doing the similar things that we try to do here.
Yeah. So, I guess. So you said that it was like 100 years since you've last been in a Marist bishop, which is quite, because obviously our first bishop was Marist, right? Was that
Pompalio? Yes, yeah. Well, no, actually, Pompalio wasn't a Marist. He was with the Society of Mary was founded in 1836, and Pompalio was part of that group. And Rome basically approved them because they were willing to come out to Oceania. And they appointed Pompalio as the bishop, so he never took vows. The other priests took vows to become Marist. So Bishop Pompalio wasn't a Marist. He never belonged to the Society of Mary, but he was sort of intimately tied up with them all at the beginning. And then Yeah, so there was Pakuera Mariu was the Maori bishop, he was the auxiliary bishop of Hamilton, and he was ordained in 1988. So he was a Marist, but he wasn't the ordinary of a diocese. He was an auxiliary and with a different sort of mandate. So, and previous to that was Archbishop O'Shea of Wellington, and I think he was ordained in 1913, I think. So yeah, so that's
So yeah, it must have been quite a. How did you get appointed bishop? Like, was it just like one day you were just going through your normal routine, the phone rings out, how are you going to be a bishop? What? So there's no indication beforehand?
No, well, the way that the process for becoming a bishop, or how it works in the church, is that Bishop Barry Jones had died here, and so they're starting to look for someone to replace him. The nuncio, who's the Pope's representative in New Zealand, he conducts a process whereby it's called a turner, and that's where you get three names of suitable men who could be bishops. That gets started. People who know those people are sent out a form which they fill in, and then that form is those replies are collated by the nuncio, who then sends them to Rome. Rome go through them, then they say this one, and then the person who's involved, the person that's is then rung to say that. And if you're one of the things about the turner is that if you're asked for to speak about, to write about someone, you're expected to keep that secret, and that not to talk about that to anyone else. That you've got a letter or to the person whose name it is that they're on it. So so technically it is supposed to be a surprise to you that you've been when you get rung up. So
Yeah.
And I was, in my circumstance, I was living in Rome at the time, at the General House of the Society of Mary. I was the Bursar General, so I'd been living in Rome for the last couple of years. So it wasn't what I thought was going to happen in my life. Mind you, neither was going to the Bursar General. That all happened very quickly as well. So I've had a few instances where life changes suddenly. Past 3 times, I suppose. It's all happened.
Yeah.
What I wasn't expecting. Yeah.
Right. And so then you're like, because where you were living in Rome leading up to your ordination as bishop, and then okay, and then did you move straight to Christchurch?
Actually, ironically enough, I was home in New Zealand at the time of when the announcement was made, because I'd been in Rome for a couple of years and I'd come home for a holiday to see my family and friends, and so it was just by fluke really that I was here. So I finished my holiday and went back to Rome beginning of January, and then a couple of weeks packed up in Rome, and then came back to Christchurch and then stayed here from then on. So sort of from mid-January, and then got ordained in March, beginning of March, and I mean that was it. Yeah.
It sounds like you've got quite a transient life. You're moving around a lot, doing a lot of different things.
Yeah, I have. I had 20 years in as a priest teaching, so and that involved, and due to circumstances really, I moved around a bit. Then I had 4 years in Whangarei teaching at Pompallier College, and I came down to Christchurch for 3 years to St Bede's, and then the Marist, we left teaching in those 2 places, and so I went to Hatapaura College in Fielding to do chaplaincy work, and then I went back teaching at St Pat's in Wellington for 2 years, and I went back to St Bede's as the deputy principal for 2 years, and then back to St Pat's in Wellington for 6 years as the rector. So, and which is the principal's job, and then I got elected to the administration of the Society of Mary, and was asked to do that full time. So I left teaching in 2013 and had 2 years in Wellington on our administration, and then got rung up to say, look, we need someone to be the Bursar General. Would you come to Rome? So 6 weeks later, I was in Rome, and then next time it was Christchurch, and now it's Wellington. So I must say, when I came to Christchurch, I sort of thought, well, this will be it now. And so having moved around a lot for 25 years, it was part of it was like, oh, well, this is where I stay now, this is where I belong, and so psychologically, sort of bedding in here was. So it was ironic that, in fact, that wasn't the case either. So God works in mysterious ways. Doesn't pay to plan too much.
Yeah. So, obviously, going from priest to bishop, your role changes
Sure.
from like to a more diocesan level. I imagine. I've never been a bishop.
No.
But
no, neither had
I. So, what was your first kind of like? How do you first start getting into the mindset of like being a bishop? What was your approach?
Yeah. I suppose part of it was to think of the bishops that I'd known and seen in my life. So I'd been one of the advantages of having been a religious was that I actually lived in different dioceses. So I lived in the Auckland diocese and Palmerston North diocese, which was home for me. And in Wellington and in Christchurch. So I'd seen different bishops had operated and their style and how they were. So that was quite important. For a start, it's really a case of just getting your head around, well, what does this mean and what does it feel like, and just talking with people really, and getting used to relating with people as the bishop. And I think one of the things that you realise is that people take it seriously. So I need to take that seriously as well. Not that you don't, but it is, and people it means something to them, and so sort of getting your head around that is really important, I think, and not and also the fact that I think one of the things I've always understood is that we walk on the shoulders of those who have gone before us. I always, I was at St. Pat's in Wellington. It would have been 123 years, I think, when I got there. And there used to be a corridor we walked down every morning to go to the staff room. And on the walls were all the rectors there was 16 before me, their photos were all up from the first one through to my predecessor. And I was always really conscious that I was just another step in a long line of people who'd done the work before, and all the staff, and that this was so sort of not caretaker, but like this is something that you'll work with for this time, and then I'll finish, and someone else will pick it up and lead, and that's sort of the same feeling I have with in this call to be bishop, and this diocese. I'm the 10th bishop, and we've got a stairwell and next door that's got the 10 bishops going up the top, and you think, then I'm playing my part now, and obviously I'll now finish, and someone else will go there and lead, and it's very, and I mean that's the church microcosm. One of my favourite churches in Rome is St. Paul's outside the walls, and it's got all the popes from St. Peter all the way up, all the way around. In the last one they have the light shining on Pope Francis, and just that sense of handing on. It's so much bigger than me. It's not my diocese. It's that I think that's really powerful and helpful, and in terms of understanding what it's on about, and the people who live here and who have worshipped here, and their families and their ancestors, and hopefully their generations to come. It's that. That's sort of, I suppose that's really what I tried to get to know the priests and the people, and the diocese and what it's like, and all of those things.
Yeah, and because I like that kind of mentality, because it's like it's very Catholic in a sense, because obviously we've got the apostolic succession. So
Yes,
you're the 10th bishop in this diocese, and then they had a bishop in another diocese, and so on and so forth. And
that's right. Yeah, and it's actually really freeing, because you realize that you're just playing your part in something that's so much bigger than yourself. I mean, you're called upon to lead, and but actually yeah, that it is. I mean, I always try and hold on to is, but this is God's work that we're cooperating in. It's
Yeah,
not Paul Martin's work, and once
that's really cool.
if you can sort of get your head around that, it's actually really freeing. It's,
Yeah. And
yeah,
do you have the
even when
same
you've got problems.
mentality? Do you have the same mentality now that you're going into becoming an archbishop?
Yep, yeah, I do, and I think, yeah, I suppose part of it, yeah, I don't really. I suppose in my mind, I really think, look, I'm going from being the bishop of this diocese to being the bishop of Wellington diocese, and the fact that it happens to be an archdiocese is, it has some particular parts that come with that, but fundamentally, it's about leading that diocese now. When Cardinal Tom retires, and I'll pick up, just like someone will come in to replace me here and carry, pick that up, and that's how I really see and understand.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. Rather than the archbishop part is, it's not an accident, but it reflects the fact that it's an archdiocese. But each of the dioceses in this country, we're all trying to work together to bring Christ to a world that desperately needs that good news.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's, definitely the part of the mission of Evangelion, and the point of this podcast is to again bring Christ. It's the point of our whole lives.
It is, yeah, 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 which is great.
Mm. So what actually are you allowed to do as archbishop? Like, what's your jurisdiction?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Well, there's two parts. One of them is, as far as I understand it, is that you're the leader of the archdiocese, and because the structure of the church is that you have an archdiocese, and then around it you have what are called the suffragan dioceses. So in New Zealand, Wellington is the archdiocese, and the other 5 dioceses are called suffragan dioceses of the archdiocese. In Australia, Brisbane, Sydney, Canberra, I think, Adelaide, Melbourne, and Perth are all archdioceses with a number of dioceses or suffragan dioceses around each one. So the archbishop, in particular circumstances, if there are some things within canon law and the life of the church that the metropolitan will oversee, the metropolitan diocese, and that's and it's quite particular. It's not like that the archbishop would then tell the bishop of another diocese, "I don't really think you should do this or do that." It's each diocese is autonomous, and but there are certain particular instances of things happen that the metropolitan might have to step in and manage that, especially if things involving other bishops, sort of on that level. But it's quite prescribed. Having said that, don't ask what those prescriptions are, because I haven't looked at it.
No. Well, one interesting thing I heard about archbishops, or at least the archbishop in New Zealand, is that you're also the bishop of the military. So
Oh,
do you have to go through some sort of military training for that, or?
no, that the military, or what's called the military ordinariate. So there's a diocese for the military has a military ordinary, and that happens to be Cardinal John at the moment. But that's a Roman appointment, and so it's not tied to being the archbishop. So it could be any of the 6.
Okay,
So
cool.
it just happens to be Cardinal John at the moment. So no, it's not a. No, I won't have to go and do basic military training unless I am appointed, and then I'll hopefully won't have to do it anyway because I might fail.
Yeah, I mean, looking at your track record, I mean, why not? You're always moving around.
Why not? That's right. Yeah, well,
Just one more thing.
might be enough to.
And
Yeah.
something else that's interesting is, like, in New Zealand, we've got 2 cardinals at the moment, and because John Dew, he's archbishop
Yes.
and cardinal, isn't he?
Yes.
So, again, taking your track record into consideration, how long will it take for you to become a cardinal then?
Yeah, being a cardinal is not tied to being the archbishop. I mean, in the last few years, Cardinal Tom, who's in Cardinal McKeefery before him and Cardinal John have all become cardinals. But it's entirely up to the decision of the Pope of the time who they want to make cardinals. So there's no presumption that, in fact, that I would become a cardinal, because the Pope might decide, actually, that joke has not got what I'm looking for, or and he could choose anyone to be. I mean, any of the bishops could become a cardinal if that's what the Pope wanted. And in fact, Pope Francis, Cardinal Murphy of Tonga, he made him a cardinal, and the Tongan Catholic community is relatively small by comparison to other places, but he was looking for a breadth of voice and from different parts, and see, Cardinal John and Rebat and Port Moresby, he's a cardinal as well, trying to get a spread of voices. Whereas, see, the cardinal, one of the cardinal in Samoa, they had the Samoan bishop, he was a cardinal, but the current one isn't. So I'm not presuming anything on that front at all. And if the Pope, whoever the Pope is, decided that he wanted that from me, then if he asked, then I would, and if he doesn't, then I'd just as happy being the Archbishop. It's not I think other things is that being a cardinal involves there's significant more responsibility and work involved with that as well. So I'm not looking for more work, Nicholas.
Yeah, and I suppose you don't get a pay rise either.
Evidently not. No, it's one of the disappointing parts of becoming a bishop, I'd have to say, having been a religious and thinking, oh, this will be good, but no. Very disappointing.
You don't do it for the money, but it would be nice, eh? So you said that, like, as Archbishop, you do have things you do get involved with things that involve other bishops, but you don't necessarily get involved in other dioceses.
Yeah, it's usually, as far as I understand, and to be fair, I haven't really done a whole lot of reading up on it at this stage, it's only if particular incidents or things happen that you might be required to step in to see, to investigate, or to see, or to support in particular circumstances. That's my understanding. Yeah.
So
but fundamentally,
sorry. Carry on.
Yeah. So fundamentally, it's really around particular circumstances in other dioceses that might require the metropolitan to become involved.
Right. Okay. So it wasn't a case of you using your title of Archbishop to get Bishop Galen to do Exodus 90. That was just a suggestion, was it?
No, that's because I thought he needed it. Yeah.
But yeah, so moving on to the next part of our little discussion here, our interview, we are going to be talking about Exodus 90, and you've just completed it, haven't you, Archbishop?
I have just completed it. Yeah, finished on Easter Sunday, so it was a very powerful experience.
So for those of us listening, what is Exodus 90, and why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah, Exodus 90 is a program that comes out of the US, and it's aimed at men. It's a program for men, and it involves a 90-day journey of faith. It began on the 4th of January and finished on Easter Sunday. That was the 90 days, and it was a time of prayer and fraternity, and also asceticism, what they call the discipline. So part of it was you needed to do it as a group, which is really important. So I asked 5 other men that I knew and had become friends with to do it with me, and they all agreed. They're all married men with children, so between them some 3, 4, and 5 children. So they were, and the oldest, I think, of their kids is 14. So the younger families, and we would. So part of it would be you can make a commitment to pray for an hour each day, do a holy hour each day, and then to meet together once a week as a fraternity, to pray and to just check in with each other how it's going. And you also have what's called an anchor. So one of the other people in the group is your anchor. You check in with each other each day just to see how it's going, what's arising. So, and then they have what's called the discipline. So the one that everyone gets hung up on is the first one on the list is cold shower. So I had 90 days of cold showering, which was okay on the 4th of January, and seemed to get cold. In the last week, the shower seemed to get colder and colder each day, which I don't probably means you were coming to the end. But so that was that. It was involved. So no desserts, eating between meals, no soft drinks, only sort of soda water. We've all become great guzzlers of soda water. Devices, so no computer, cell phone, except for work, not for no TV, no televised sports, and watch telly for 90 days. I've watched any sport, and exercise. You're expected to do three 3 days of intense exercise a week, and then no unnecessary purchases, and then fasting on Wednesdays and Fridays, and no meat on Wednesdays and Fridays. So, it sounds comprehensive, and it is on one level, but on another level, it's actually, once you get into it, it sort of becomes your life and pattern, and it's really hard to explain what that does for you, except that on Easter Sunday, like you think at the end it's all going to be great and can't wait to get in the hot shower on Easter Sunday morning. But in fact, for me anyway, getting in that shower on Easter Sunday morning when it was warm was not what I thought it would be. It was like, oh, I don't want that. This felt like going back to another. It was really very strange to how it is, and so in fact, subsequently I've taken to getting into a hot shower and then turning it off and soaping up and then washing down in cold.
Very interesting.
Yeah. It's just there's something. Yeah, it's very hard to explain. But that's the thing. Everyone gets fixated on the cold showers, but I'd say it's not the cold showers really. And the other thing about it is that you read the book of Exodus over the 90 days. So there's an act that comes with it. You get that you read the passage of Exodus. There's a reflection that comes with it, and also for the readings for each day. And it's really calling you to strip away the things that we hang on to that compensate for God. And so whether it's food or television or sport or purchase, buying technology, phones, computers, all of that stuff, you take that all away, and then you're really left. Well, what is it all about? And if you're praying each day for an hour each day, God can't help but get in. I mean, I've prayed regularly for a long time. I've been in a religious life for 1985, but I'd say this has probably been the most intense and powerful time of prayer in my religious life, I'd say.
Wow, that's pretty fun.
Consistency, yeah, just the consistency of it, and all the other disciplines that come with it, and really support that. And then the fraternity, that is really key. And the Exodus people make a really big thing of fraternity, and it's true. So I wouldn't advise doing this on your own. And I wouldn't even advise doing it in a pair even. It's not, you need a group. You need, and the more that, certainly in the group of guys that I did it with, as we went on, in the things that, the movements of our hearts and the struggles and guys learning to trust each other in faith, it's been really powerful. And in fact, this morning we got together. We usually get together at 6 o'clock in the morning and pray during an hour in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and then we have our little meeting. And we went out for a meal together last night, so we made it very slack and didn't meet till 6:30 this morning. So, but it's really a real desire for the others to to continue to pray together each week and to meet and to carry on. So,
That's really cool.
It's very hard to explain just what it's meant for all of us.
Yeah, I think because I've done Exodus 90 a couple of times, and the showers, especially this time, and now it's the initial burst of cold water that's the hardest, and after that you can kind of take it, which kind of led me to kind of like pacing a bit before I got in the shower, and I find myself now it's like I'm not having a cold shower anymore. I mean, again, I haven't gotten hot showers yet, but before I get in the shower, I'm just kind of like trying to psych myself up, and I'm like, but I'm not even having a cold shower. It's just kind of stuck with me. But it's really interesting you were saying that, the gift of this has been especially coming from the perspective of a religious priest, that this is even helps your prayer life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What other fruits would you say have come out of this program for you?
I think it's probably helped me to be more reflective around like where God is working and seeing where God is working both in my life and in the life of other people. I think one of the big privileges of it is seen, especially in the lives of the other guys who are in the group, and they're all married men, and hearing them talk about what it's meant for them in terms of their relationships, their family life, their role as dads, what that's that they're wanting to really help their kids to pray, and and taking it seriously, and being really that's been very uplifting for me, and an insight, I think, into one of the things that I really hope that I've been talking about in our diocese around small groups and bringing people together, and this was a very good sort of powerful experience of that, but based around prayer, that actually it's not just the men's group for sorting out how your marriage is going or something. It's actually, that each guy is praying each morning the same stuff, reading the same stuff, checking in with each other, and then you see what that's doing for them and what God's doing in them is really, really, really powerful. I think too, it's probably helped me in terms of preaching, of the things I've been preaching about, and that I think that the issue for us, I think, as Catholic people, is often that we are a bit warm. We're just warm, and we're neither hot nor cold. We're sort of warm, and I think that actually that real freedom comes when you actually do it well, not sort of half-hearted. And I've been saying that here, and what we've been trying to do in this diocese around, what are we doing faith-wise Monday to Saturday to support the faith life of Sunday, and this would be, I think, a really this experience would tap into my sense of what that might be, in terms of actually really helping people to pray. And I've sort of put out 3 pastoral priorities for our diocese. I mean, they're not rocket science or anything, but they're growing in holiness, strengthening faith communities, and proclaiming the word. And if we haven't fallen in love with Christ ourselves, then we're not going to be too interested in building up our own faith community, and we're certainly not going to be very convicted of going out and proclaiming the good news to others. So this is, I think, for me, this has been a really powerful experience of, of taking steps to really try and grow in holiness, and not saying holy is better than anyone else, but actually letting God in and opening the heart, and really, really powerful.
Yeah, it is quite a transformative experience. I found myself, because like I said, I've done it a couple of times, and one thing I've found is I do Exodus 90, and then it sets me off for the rest of the year. But then round about Advent, I realise I've become sloppy again, and it's like I need something to get me on back on track. But I guess, what would you say to the people that might criticize it, saying it's unnecessarily like difficult. It's not realistic to practice in everyday life, because I understand the creator James Baxter. He originally created it whilst he was in seminary for formation of priests, and so you can kind of say, okay, as a priest, or a religious, it's just you, so you can control your own life. But for the average Joe, it's different, eh?
Yeah, it is, and I think one of the things for me would be around the sense of the privilege that I have as a priest to be able to certainly to be able to pray for an hour each day. I have, don't have kids waking up at 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning, and so and then when do you pray? So, and to be fair, that what I like about Exodus is that they are also realistic in that sense of they don't want you to beat yourself up if you have a coffee with milk, right? Like not to let the disciplines become the focus, and the same in prayer. They'd say, look, if you're struggling to get an hour into a holy hour, then make sure you spend 20 minutes in contemplation. Like there's so it's and in fact I've been really edified by the way the guys that I've been doing it with, who are all family men, have found the time to pray. Whether it's we have a perpetual adoration chapel here in this city in the diocese, and a number of them have they'd go there in their lunch hour, or they've all of them, I think, have the program encourages you to go to mass more often, and they've discovered the joy of weekday mass. And they're going 2 or 3 times a week, and so they might go 11:30 pray for half an hour and go to mass at 12. Like it's discovering those sort of things. So I think I reckon that there's something in men. We do all sorts of things to run coast to coast, run from one side to the other, do marathons, do all this extreme stuff that just sort of have a challenge, and I think this is the spiritual life, but the challenge of it is the attraction in the first instance, and then the experience overtakes the challenges, and then God steps in, and the Holy Spirit works, and you also get bashed around by the devil as well, who really likes to have a go at you during it. It's sort of like he goes, oh hell, this fella's taking all of it seriously, and so really go at you and all your weaknesses and your temptations. And so it's quite an experience. That's why you need each other to be able to talk about it and check in each day. You're okay, and what's happening, and often it's fine, but sometimes you do have rough days, and be able to talk to someone, know that you're going to chat with someone in the evening, they've got someone to talk to about that stuff. And
yeah, I know that I found the fraternity meetings really, really good. I found that like in Auckland, because everything's a bit spread out, it's a bit difficult to find a time where we could all meet up and stuff. But having that regular meeting was really good. I think some of the like criticisms of Exodus 90 is like, well, there's this mentality of Catholicism of it's about punishing yourself. With the idea of penance and stuff, and so like this is just Catholics just punishing themselves unnecessarily. They've got it wrong, kind of thing. What would you say to that?
I don't think that's true, actually. And what I found slightly interesting is that a number of people that I know who aren't really Christian are quite sort of taken with elements of it from a sort of even from a human point of view of fasting and knology, and like I think people have a sense that a lot of those elements have got out of kilter in their lives, and they're out of even if they're not operating out of a spiritual dimension. So there's sort of a fascination with that, and you see that in all the different health things that people are doing these days. Even cold showers. When you say I've heard cold showers are really good. They help people this, that, and the other. And in fact, I think that's true. Having experienced it, I think you at the end of a cold shower, you come out, you do feel sort of you're awake, and you're sort of yeah. So I don't think. I think the experience of it, my experience of it, is that the ascetical practices, what they call the disciplines, but I think ascetical practices captures it better. Actually, they free you up to be able to really face what you need to face. And the biggest thing for me in it was, is God enough? Is God enough for me? Or do I sort of give him 70% and say, well, I've still got, alcohol or shopping or TV or, these other things that'll sort of that'll make a whole. And when you take those things away, you realize that actually, is God enough? And that's what you then work your way through. So no, I don't think it's. I understand why people might think that, but actually, my experience of it is not that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like, I suppose, yeah, that is the thing of it is like getting rid of those things that we've made icons and we've put in front of
Yeah.
God. But yeah, I never thought of it in that perspective, because it talks in the program about this is the pathway that we've been given to lead us to God. And like, I mean, I found at Christmas this year, it was a feast, so I was feasting. I was definitely
Yep.
feasting a little bit too much.
Yep.
I'd eaten all morning, and then it was lunchtime, so I ate again, and I was like,
Yep.
I couldn't see a way out of it. I knew it was wrong. It was like, I don't need ice cream again today. But at the same time, I was like, but I mean, ice cream's good, and God wants good things for me, so
Yep.
I guess I'll have to have it. And like I was like kind of like easing my way into these things. I was talking myself into these things way too much, and yeah, Exodus 90 just gave me that clarity. That's kind of like, yeah, okay, just
Yep.
get rid of everything and start again. And yeah, you definitely need all three elements: the prayer and the fraternity. Which and I kind of almost found that the fraternity was the more difficult part. Trying to get all the guys together and trying to kind of get us on the same page. But I thought it was cool what
Yeah,
you were
well, we
talking
were.
about. Just
Yeah.
no,
No, I
carry
was
on.
going to say, I think we were lucky in our the group of guys we did meet every week, and we and it was really strong element, very strong element of the experience. And that, I think, you don't have more than six, because
No.
that that's too many, and probably four might not even be quite enough. It depends on the mixture of people too. You try and get the right mix of people in the group. Sorry, Dominic, I cut you off there.
No, it's good. It's good points. I was going to go on to talk about like how, and you kind of mentioned this in your 3 points that you made for the diocese of like proclaiming the word. It's like, can we use this program of Exodus 90 as an evangelical tool? Can you see how we can bring people to the faith and understanding of Catholicism through it?
I think my initial reaction to that would be, I think it's actually good for us to do it, to really be on fire ourselves, and then to talk about that with other people, because it's a big step. It's a big step to say to someone, come and pray for an hour a day. There, that's quite, it's a lot. And so I think from my initial thing would be that it's not a tool for bringing people who aren't in a relationship with Christ to Christ, but actually something for us in the first instance to really strengthen our own faith and conviction, and then go out to others. That would be my initial sense of it. I think it's very daunting for people who may not have ever prayed, or understanding all of that in the scriptures and those things. Yeah.
So, how would you say there is a way that we can present Exodus 90 to people that say don't like cold showers?
Yeah, it's funny. Like Yeah, I don't know. It's I think my advice to people is the culture that it's like it's the wrong thing to be. It's the wrong thing to be worried about, really, and it's the it's really it's very strange, and I wouldn't have said that obviously before doing it, because the thing that everyone I couldn't do cold showers, and actually you can do cold showers, and you just have to will it. You have to get in there, turn that water on, get
Mm,
wet, and then within 15 seconds, well, my experience was that it was like, yeah, it's cold, but and then I always used to turn the shower off and step up. That made it so you weren't running the shower for too long. So you went
yeah.
and but yeah, it was actually it really there was something about it that it brings you alive. And as I said to you, that Sunday, last Sunday morning, standing under a warm shower was not what I thought it would be. And
Mm,
and the other guys in the group, same experience.
yeah.
Um,
So I suppose we could
mm,
sell it in that kind of way of like listen to other people's objections, and then you kind of like put them away by saying it's like actually the cold shower wasn't a horrible experience. It was actually it actually gave me more, and that kind of brings intrigue into their life. Like, oh, maybe I could try this, you know?
yeah, absolutely. And see what's fascinating too is that like in our group, for all the people, there were different elements of those disciplines that they struggled with. So it wasn't that everyone struggled with food, but some did and some didn't. Alcohol, um,
Mm,
some thought that was going to be one of the guys. He was really worried about not drinking and how that would affect his social life and his interactions with work and all of these things. Because it was and just transformed him and not drinking. And I'd say that too. I mean, one of the things we're really trying to work out was, do I really want to keep drinking? And not that I was a heavy drinker, but actually I just felt really well not drinking, and woke up each morning with real clear um, and soda water. Even socially, if you just I'm having a soda water, and then people these days are a lot more. That's what you want. And
mm,
see, the other thing too is that you sort of realize that when people make a fuss about it, about the fact that you're not drinking, it's sort of like, well, what's that really saying? You know, um, and that's yeah.
yeah.
No, I think one of the things, because people, or other people will say, oh, I couldn't possibly live without having my lattes because during it you don't have milk and you don't have milky coffees and things. So, but actually, why would you'd say, why would you give up on a whole experience for a latte or
Yeah.
because or they're not. It's interesting that they really make a big thing about technology and that really trying to master technology. And I agree with that. I think we have become a society that's really fixated on technology and TV and Netflix and all of that stuff. And
Mm,
actually, when I mean, I wasn't a big TV watcher, but I like to watch a series on Netflix of this or a series of that. I was halfway through The Crown when it started, but I'm sort of not that interested in watching the rest of the
mm,
latest season around now. Yeah, it's not what I thought it would be. Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah.
Mm.
That's cool. Yeah, it's like I like how you say, why would you give up a whole experience just for this one pleasure? And when I suppose you put it in that perspective, it's quite different. Because you're realizing that you're changing your life and there is a benefit in this.
Yeah, no,
Um,
huge.
so we're coming to the end of our time, and just to
Yeah,
finish off, do you think that Exodus 90 should be like a rite of passage for into manhood, or do you think this is definitely a program that's for the average Catholic out there, or is it
yeah,
not?
I do. My advice would be to do a bit of work beforehand with helping guys how to pray. I think that could be to really be able to make the most of that. So I would, a couple of the fellas who did it with me last year, I said to them, look, I want you to come with me to the adoration point. 6 in the morning and pray with me for 40 minutes. And because they think I'm all right, they said, yeah, we'll do that. And they did. And that meant that when I said to them, towards the end of the year, look, I'm thinking of doing this Exodus 90, what about doing it with me? The prayer wasn't daunting. Whereas I think if we hadn't had that experience for them, the thought of what on earth would an hour of prayer look like and feel like would have been really hard. So I think there's something around helping guys beforehand who experience how to pray in that way. I don't know that I'd necessarily call it a rite of passage. It'd probably be worth talking to a younger guy who's done it. I think for any men of any. I mean, I'm 53, and for men of any age, we're all at different stages of our lives and phases, and I think it's there for anyone who really wants to give themselves a chance to really sort of let their faith, experience God and face their demons, if you like. Not in a terrible way, but in a being honest about what are the things that are holding me back or that I'm unfree around, and do it in an environment where you've got doing it with other people who are going through the same experience. I think it's really, it's certainly, I'd really recommend it for anyone, really.
That's really cool. Well, thank you for your time, Archbishop. It's been a great conversation, and I mean, I find this with everyone. It might just be me. I can talk for hours about these kind of things. I'd love to pick your brain about a few other things in the future, so maybe we'll see if we can get you back on the podcast.
No, that'd be great.
If anyone wants to find out more information about what you've been up to or anything, is there anywhere they can look?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, not at the moment. Yeah. No,
just somewhere between. Just go to mass and see him in the Eucharist.
That's right. Yes, I'll be there. Yeah. No. Yeah. And okay. No, not at this stage. Anything.
Okay, very good. Well, all the best with all your work and your new appointment, and God bless.
Good on you, Dominic. Thanks very much, and blessings to you and all the work that you're doing in this space. Really great way to communicate with people. So good on you. God bless.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Pleasure.
Right. See you later.
Good one. Bye-bye.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for that great episode. We will be posting this very soon. For those of you watching on Facebook, thanks for joining and paying attention to this one. If you want to get involved with anything else we're doing, check us out on evangelion.co.nz or search up on any podcast app, Curiously Catholic, and we will be there providing this great content for you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to all that we do, and leave us some reviews on those podcast apps because it really does help us get the information out there. Okay, thank you very much, and God bless.